Hello, we're going to give a brief demonstration of a screen reader and explain a little bit about accessibility and creating accessible websites for people who are blind and visually impaired and use screen readers, and a little bit of background on other disabilities that might need accessibility. A screen reader. Screen reader is a generic term for an application that allows a person who is blind or visually impaired to access the text on the screen through keyboard commands and a variety of gestures and a touch device. What this means is that using a screen reader, a person who is blind or visually impaired can do things like access the menu bar with certain keystrokes or gestures, access content on the page, move through buttons, move through links on a web page, so forth. I'm going to give you a brief demonstration of a website using a screen reader and then talk a little bit about some of the features that this website has that make it easier for a screen reader to work. First, I should talk a little bit about how a screen reader works with a website specifically. When a screen reader reads text on the screen, it reads it from left to right and down. As you know, on a web page, this would be rather distracting and actually very detrimental. When you have all kinds of sidebars, navigation text, blocks of text throughout the page, maybe the website has multiple columns, what would happen if it was read left to right and down is all of these would be jumbled up with each other, and you would get parts of each bit of the content, then the next jumble, and so forth. So very confusing, very hard to understand. What the screen reader software does is it takes this website and renders a virtual version of it in memory. It takes the source code of the site, looks at the source code and says, here is one element, here is another element, and then it creates a vertical representation so that the website, according to the blind person who is reusing the screen reader, literally comes one element after another, or in a vertical column, single column. All right, so when I'm reviewing a website with a screen reader, you may not actually be able to track what's going on, and that's because I'm in this virtual representation of the website. You will see content on the page, but sometimes the screen reader will read things that are not visible on the page because it's actually reading it from the virtual representation in memory. So that's just to get you kind of a little bit of a heads up that if you start getting a little confused and a little lost, that's what's going on. So I'm going to just let you listen to this website to get you used to the synthetic voice, and then we'll go through it slowly and explain what some of the elements are that we've included in this website to make it somewhat easier for people who are using screen readers and other assistive technologies.
Web accessibility is
Here we go.
Web accessibility is architecture, platforms, and integration. Visited same page link, jump to navigation banner. Visited link, graphic, University of California, Berkeley is architecture, platforms, and integration. Visited link, web accessibility, search terms, edit, submit, search button, banner, and main region, heading level 2. What does web accessibility mean for you? The University of California's visited link, information technology accessibility policy, effective August 27, 2013, states that all campus websites and web applications should be accessible to people with disabilities, including those who use assistive technologies. What does this mean for Berkeley? List of 4 items. Bullet for website and content owners. All site content should be accessible. Bullet for web developers. Websites and products should be built with accessibility in mind. Period.
Okay, so that was just a brief demonstration, and I'm now going to go back up to the top of the page.
Web.
And I'm going to go slowly through this page and explain to you some of the things that we find here.
Land. Visited same page link, jump to navigation.
So you'll notice that the very first link on this page is a jump to navigation link. That jump to navigation link is a jump list or a jump link or a skip to link in the source code that allows us to define a portion of the page that a person may want to get to much more quickly than if they just had to tab through the page. So for example, if I did tab through the page,
Tab, banner, University of California, Berkeley visited link graphic.
so the first link is then after the jump is the University of California,
Tab, web accessibility visited link.
web
Home.
accessibility, so forth, the home. So that's, it's going to take a while to get to the meat of the page. I've tested it previously, and I can tell you it's about 9 tabs to get to the actual body of the page.
Web accessibility is architecture.
This is actually an accessibility issue, especially for people who are having difficulty with their hands for some reason. Say they have repetitive stress or carpal tunnel and can't use a mouse. They're stuck using the keyboard, and if we're having them tab several times before they even get to the beginning of what they might want to look at, that's even adding more stress and more strain on their injury. Say they also might be a person who has no use of their hands and have to use technologies such as a single switch, where just by moving their head they tap a switch and that moves tab, tab, tab through the web page. Again, you can see that it's going to be very frustrating for a person if they have to do this 10 or 11 times before they're even at the first relevant link. So if we do
Web.
tab to this, skip to jump to navigation link,
Tab, jump to navigation, same page link visited.
then hit enter,
Enter, web accessibility is architecture.
or activate it, whichever way a person might activate it.
Visited link web accessibility, a new Z. Visited link evaluating your site. Visited link resources.
And you see we jumped way down on the page to the actual meat, the actual links of this page that are relevant and critical.
Web accessibility is architecture.
Moving back up to
platforms,
the
and
top
integration.
now. And I'm going to move down a little.
Land. Visited same page link, jump to navigation. Land. Banner.
And you notice it said banner. So that's something in the source code that indicates to the screen reader user that what's here is a banner. It also indicates to me that this page has marked up regions. Banner is a region. And the fact that it has a banner region, I want to skip that because as a screen reader user, most of the time the stuff in a banner is introductory, hello, I'm here. So I'm going to use the skip to next region.
Main region.
And immediately, the very first thing I hit is the main region. And if I read from here,
Heading level 2, what does web accessibility mean for you? Land. The University of California.
and as you see, it brought me to the meat of this page, the actual main region. So you can mark up in your source code the fact that there's a main region on the page, and it makes it much easier for the blind person to jump to that area. I could also go to the top of the page again, and I can hit a keystroke that actually says, if there is a main region, find it.
Main region.
And immediately I'm brought to the exact same space.
Heading level 2, what does web accessibility mean for you?
And you'll notice that it said heading level 2. So it actually told me there's a heading on this page, and it's level 2. And I can actually jump by headings.
Events and mailing list, heading level 2.
You'll see there's another one.
Is your website accessible? Heading level 2.
And I can navigate through those headings really quickly and jump to the sections of this page and also get a good outline of what's going on this page and possibly find areas of interest on the page. So those are two really good tricks to help a blind person navigate a website. And one really good trick to help people who are keyboard-only users or alternative input users to navigate a website. So now I'm going to move to a little bit more basic, because those are basic, but they're not the most basic.
Links list dialog. Links list view. Web access mailing list 7 of 30.
So as you see here, this is a list of all the links on the page. Most screen reader users only navigate websites through the links list. They'll either tab through the content or bring up this list of links. Every screen reader on the market all allow you to have a list of links. So that means I can quickly arrow through these links.
Self-assessment. Web accessibility services at UC Berkeley. Top 10 tips for making your website accessible.
So you see I can simply move through these. Or say it's a site I visit frequently and I actually know which link I want to go to. I'm going to go to the top of this really quickly.
Home. Jump to navigation.
And I'm going to bring you to my favorite page on this website. And that happens to be our Ask Pecan page.
A. Ask Pecan.
So you see I was at the top of the page, I hit A, and it jumped down through all the links up above, several of them. I think there's probably about 20 of them before this point. And I was able to quickly, with one keystroke, get to this link. And I'm going to just hit Enter.
Enter.
and it should go to that page.
Ask
Hopefully.
Pecan
There
Web
we go.
Accessibility Mozilla Firefox. Ask Pecan Web Accessibility Mozilla Firefox. Page has 9 regions, 10 headings, and 42 links.
So as you heard there, the screen reader actually told me 9 regions, so many headings, and so many links. So as the page loads, it gives me that information so that I could quickly do what I did on the previous page and not have to worry about, exploring the page first. I could just quickly use the main region.
Wrapping the top, main region. Navigation region, heading level 2, you are here.
And there's our breadcrumbs.
List of 3 items, visited link home.
So forth. I could read all that. But I also happen to know that we have a really good article on this page that I want to get to. So once again, I'll bring up our links list.
Links list dialog, links list view.
And the link I'd want to look at on this page is the one that's going to be linked to this particular presentation.
W, Web Access Berkeley, Edu. W, what is a screen reader anyway?
What is a screen reader anyway? So I was quickly able to find that. So let's talk about how this links list is useful and problems that could cause this links list to fail for me. If you do not add appropriate labels to your links, the screen reader user will not know where the link is going. Say there's content surrounding the link that says, our newest addition to our blog post or what have you, but all you say is click here to get to that content, and the click here is the link. Can you imagine if this list of links had only click here's in it? Completely useless and completely irrelevant. And since I was specifically looking for the what is a screen reader anyways, I would have hit the letter W to jump to that. And of course, if it was click here, it would never get there. Other things you should note when you're looking at creating your labels for your links is don't use any symbology before the link title. So for example, we've seen a lot of links lately that have punctuation marks in the linked label, and that punctuation mark is not something that a screen reader user is going to look for. So I've had somebody say to me, look for our resources link, but they put a question mark before the resources, and I hit R 1,000 times and I could never get to the resources link because that question mark is not an intuitive way to find the resources link. Another thing to note that if you don't label links appropriately or if you have a graphic as a link, the graphic must also have an alt tag, and that everything needs to be descriptive of what it's inside of. So for example, we have this as what is a screen reader anyways? What if we called this link Ask Pecan Answers What is a Screen Reader Anyway? And then below that, Ask Pecan Answers Keyboard Only Use. It would be even more difficult for a person to find these links because if everything started with Ask Pecan, there would be no differentiation. We could put the link title as What is a Screen Reader Anyways? Ask Pecan at the end, and it would still be a little bit more concise. But the reason why we put the title as only What is a Screen Reader Anyways is a person using speech input is going to want to use the title of the link or the text of the link, the label, to speak that link and say click. So when using speech input, a person is going to say click what is a screen reader anyway. If we added more text to that, they would have to add all that text, and speech input needs to be in fairly quick, easy to utter utterances. You really shouldn't have more than 5 or 6 words in a link title because it becomes much more difficult for the person using speech input to click on the link. Now let me talk a little bit, about what the Ask Pecan piece is, just so you know. Pecan is my former guide dog, and she's our dear Abby of web accessibility. So if you ever have any questions that you're a little scared to ask a human being, or if you're a little nervous that somebody actually might know that you don't know something about accessibility, we encourage you to email our web access account and put in the topic a question for Pecan, and Pecan will write up a post to that, and you may see it appear on this web page. Thank you very much for watching, and have a good day.